Hello. So, maybe about, I think like 3 years ago, I think it was like 3 years ago, I did a video on what intimacy means to a man. And also, I did another video on what intimacy means to a woman. And so, I wanted to actually kind of revisit that topic again, just because based off some, different things that I see and when I'm working with couples. And I think it would be really beneficial to kind of, dive into this topic a little bit more. So we can look at this as the 2.0 version. So instead of what intimacy means to a man, I want to kind of entitle this one, how to cultivate safe and intimate spaces, for a man in a relationship. So I would just say the reason why this topic is so very needed to be discussed is because, again, we think about what we see typically, with men not always feeling as comfortable being able to share their true thoughts and emotions and feeling safe in their relationships with whoever they're in a relationship with. Just because that may be seen as the norm doesn't mean that it should always remain that way. We have to figure out a way to make sure that we're cultivating those spaces, for our men. Because when they can feel totally safe and secure in their own way in a relationship, then, you'll see a different man, I think, emerge. And when I say different, I'm not talking about like, a difference from his core values and just who he is innately, as a person. But just you'll start to see him open up a little bit more. And as women, we say that's what we want. But if we say that's what we want, we have to be willing to do the work to help bring him to that point. Now, of course, yes, he should also be on his own personal journey and doing his own inner work as well. So I get that. So, of course, he's going to be doing that too. And again, we're also talking about men you are in relationships with that you all have an actual connection. You love each other. Again, I'm not talking about just somebody random. I'm actually talking about, your partner, whether it's your life partner or someone you've been in a committed relationship with. So some of the things that I see, and I'll just be honest, I see a lot of times is that, again, women, we're speaking to our men like we want to be spoken to, or we're treating them like we would like to be treated, when in actuality, we really just need to learn what their true native language is as a man. And so I always give this analogy of, if you ever travel even out of the state, but if you travel out of the country and you take the time to learn the native tongue, of that specific area, or, even just a little bit, just so that you can generally communicate with the servers at the restaurant or the hotel staff or the people who are driving the Ubers and the taxis, you can always tell how excited they are by you attempting, even if you're just attempting to speak their language. They're so excited about that. And the reason why is because it speaks volumes to say that you're taking time out of your life, your comfort zone, to try to connect with me. And that means a lot, especially when you're in someone else's home turf, that you are taking the time out to say, I want to connect with you in that way. I'm not going to just come here and speak my language and expect the different things that I do over in my country over here. I'm taking it a step further and saying, whatever it is that you all do over here and how you all relate, I want to learn that. And I also want to apply, what I'm learning so that I can better communicate with you. And the excitement, again, for those of you who are travelers, and even if you don't travel a lot, and you've probably experienced that when you see, how excited the people of that particular area are when you take the time to learn more about them and to relate to them in that way. And it's the same thing in a relationship, so even though you've been groomed a certain way, or you have a certain norm, something that you're used to as a person, but then you step outside of that comfort zone and say, I know this is a way that they can relate, and this is something that they like. I'm going to try to speak that language. It means so much. And so when we think about creating those safe and intimate spaces for our men, we can look at a few things. So the first thing again is just emotional safety. How safe a man feels with you is going to be contingent on a few things. So the first one is active listening. And again, what you're going to see is when you watch my videos, a lot of these things overlap. You're going to hear some of the same topics because it's all related and it's all interconnected. So active listening is going to be so big. So that means that you're showing a genuine interest in his thoughts and what he has going on without interruptions. Just listening, unless he offers or he asks you to offer your insight or some type of brainstorming to come to a solution. Just listen and show an interest. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. And even if it's not something that you're super interested in, show interest by asking questions. Like if he's explaining something to you, then even ask him, oh, what did you think about that? What were your thoughts on that? And like, oh, how did that make you feel? Or whatever it is, just to show a genuine interest in what he's got going on. And so that's gonna definitely promote a level of emotional safety. Validate his emotions. When he tells you how he's feeling or what he's thinking about something, please do not come back and say, yeah, I don't think that's how you really feel. Y'all got to think about this now. That doesn't even make sense. If someone says, I feel this way, and you come back and say, no, you don't. First of all, that's extremely dismissive, but it actually just doesn't make sense. Like if he's telling you this is how he feels, that's how he feels. Don't come back and try to tell him something different. But what you can do is if you don't fully understand his emotions or his perspectives, then you can ask questions that are relevant to the topic at hand. So if he's talking to you about something in particular that's going on in his world or how he's feeling about it, you can even say, you know what, I didn't even think about it in that way. Can you share with me a little bit more of how you came to that feeling? What do you think is sparking that feeling in you? And then again, that's also still showing genuine interest as well. Another thing is create a judgment-free zone. Again, this is not the time to come in with the constructive criticism even, or the rejection. This is more so him speaking his piece about what he's feeling at that time. He's not looking for you to counter it with saying, well, I wouldn't do that, or that doesn't quite make any sense. What will make you do something like that? Like, that's not smart, So you want to kind of steer clear of being judgmental in those spaces. Again, it doesn't mean that you just sit there and be a robot. If you're ever wondering about something, you can just ask general questions, and that's it. And then two, be consistent and reliable. And what I mean by this is if you have told your partner, like, we are gonna be, let's just say, intimate, later today, or I know that we haven't been together in like a few days or a week, sexually. Let's make tonight our night. Then stick with that. Don't tell him that and he's expecting that and then you switch it up. If you have to switch it up, as soon as you believe that you have to switch it up, try to talk to him about that ahead of time as to why, something has changed with you, and then provide an alternative. Do not leave him hanging. Don't just say, I'm not in the mood tonight, or I don't want to tonight, or I just can't tonight, and then just leave it there. Then tell him, you know what, not tonight, but let me tell you something. I got you first thing in the morning, or whatever it is, especially when it comes to sex. That can be very, very disappointing because a lot of men do relate in terms of like how they feel cared for and loved through physical contact, sexual contact. So when you shut that off, especially with no explanation or an alternative, it can lead to feelings of rejection for sure. So that's how we can kind of cultivate this emotional safety for men. The next thing, like I was talking about, was like the physical and emotional intimacy. Make sure you are prioritizing affection, whether it's holding hands, whether it's a hug, whether it's a kiss, whether it's, a back rub, whether it's, coming up behind him and hugging him, whether it's rubbing his head. Whatever speaks to him. Either you should know that because he's already told you that, or if you don't know, then ask. Figure that thing out. Find out what speaks to him physically and do it. And do it willingly. So, when it comes to physical intimacy, you want to make sure that you prioritize physical contact. Also, you want to express appreciation. Appreciation goes such a long way. And I know I've said this before on a video. I'm not saying lie. Don't just make up some stuff and say that, you're good at this or you do this and you're lying about it. But find something. There is something that he is good at or that you appreciate, that you acknowledge, even if it doesn't directly affect you. Maybe it's something that you've noticed with him, like how he interacts with other people and how caring he is, or, how serious he is about maybe taking care of extended family members or whatever it is. Find something you can appreciate about him. Even if you have to say something like, you know what, I see you sitting on that couch today relaxing instead of working, nonstop around the clock. I'm proud of you. Good for you. You need to do that. You need to have time for yourself and to just relax. That is also showing appreciation towards him. So when you can do that, it's very encouraging, and it actually encourages him to do certain things more. So if there's something that he's lacking in, or he hasn't been doing as much of, if you can acknowledge, when he does it, and he does it well or does it right, say that, because that could possibly be very encouraging for him to continuously do it. And again, you got to mean it. You gotta feel that, don't do it with an ulterior motive in terms of like, okay, I'm just going to do this so he'll take me, here, or he'll take me shopping, or whatever, but just do it because he is a human being worthy of appreciation. And another thing when it comes to physical and emotional intimacy is make time for intimacy. Make time for sex. Like even if you're not putting it on a calendar or scheduling it or something, but in your mind, make time for, I'm going to send him, that cute little text message, today. I'm going to make sure that when he comes home, I'm going to greet him, this way. I'm going to make sure this weekend I rearrange my schedule a little bit and be a little bit more flexible, so that if he just wants me to sit next to him on the couch while he watches the game, because that's important to him, I'm going to do that. Make time again for sex too. Like prioritize that. Whatever sex looks like for you all. Again, I'm not going to dictate how that needs to look, but whatever is enjoyable for the two of you, make time for that. Okay. Another thing, or the next thing, create a comfortable home environment. So if you all are living together, try to minimize the stress in the home. Create a peaceful atmosphere. I cannot stress that enough. Peaceful doesn't always mean that the house is like spick and span and you got candles burning everywhere and it smells like laundry detergent. But peace means I know how to interact with you at certain times of the day in our home. So I know, like when you first come in from work, that may be your decompression time. I'm going to give you that, or it might be when you're sitting down and watching a game. This is what you normally like to do. I'm going to give you that, It could also be if I have a concern about something that I feel like we need to address. I'm not just going to spring it on you first thing in the morning or right before you're about to go to bed. I'm going to check in with you and schedule a time so we can talk about it, and kind of like nip that in the bud. I'm not going to push you in a corner where you have to make a decision yet, when you really need processing time. That's how you create a peaceful environment. So making sure that you're doing those things. Making sure also you're engaging in shared activities together. It doesn't have to be everything. You all do not have to be everywhere together at every single time, but you all should have at least a couple of shared activities that you all like to do together. Whether it's we have our favorite show or movie that we watch, at the end of the week. We might like to cook together. So that's our thing. We like to go out dancing together. We like to take walks. Whatever it is, make sure that you all are prioritizing your shared activities, because you all are still individuals and you're going to have other parts of your life that's not going to include each other. So you have to prioritize that. And that's what separates your relationship, maybe from other relationships that you may have with other people, is that we make sure that we have our shared activities, and that's a priority. We don't allow a lot of things to trump that because our relationship is our priority. And then also integrate some playfulness, have fun, like tease each other, engage in some jokes, jokes that are within reason and that's not going to make you all upset with each other, but making sure that you're also incorporating just being playful, joke about things. Like everything is not so serious. So making sure that you all are doing that, that's also going to create that type of atmosphere, for your boyfriend or your husband. And then the last thing I would just say is make sure that you're supporting his growth. If he has some dreams, he has some goals, even if it's different things you don't quite necessarily agree with, maybe you don't agree with the execution, of the goal or the dream, but you can still encourage the dream or the goal. Okay, so even though you may not agree with how it's being played out, and that's a discussion for another time, still support the fact that this is something that's important to him or exciting to him, and make sure that you're not stepping on, that dream that he has. When he's stressed out, make sure that that space, within the two of you all, you're offering some reassurance, you're offering some sense of comfort, and if he's open to it, you're offering time to work with him on coming up with a solution. That's how you create a safe atmosphere when he's stressed. And then the very last thing is make sure you give him space to be himself. Do not try to change who he authentically is. Are there areas in our lives that we can all grow and evolve in? Of course. But at the core of him, and you're with him because you enjoyed who he was at his core. Don't try to take that away from him. He needs that. That's his safe space. That's his anchor, is who he is. And when he feels like he cannot be himself because you're always going to have an issue or a problem with it, or it's going to be a whole long drawn out conversation or a big deal about it, it's going to make him retreat. It's going to make him seclude, and it's going to make him less vulnerable, which is also going to diminish the feelings of safe and intimate spaces with you. So those are some things that I would say, women just kind of keep in mind. Like, we could always be working on these things. No one is 100% perfect at it, but all of the things that I shared, even if you have to go back and watch the video, just make a note of like the things you feel like you're doing, consistently, and then the areas that you feel like you need to work on. And then maybe also ask him, but you got to be open and ready for his response. But ask him out of those things, hey babe, what do you feel like I'm doing, for you out of this list? And if there's something that you feel like I could kind of work on a little bit, let me know what that is. I got you. I'm going to put forth the effort. Just saying that alone is going to make your man feel very safe and intimate, with you. So keep that in mind. Let me know your thoughts. As always, I love to hear your thoughts about, what you feel is working for you, what you feel is not. And let's chat about it. That's what I'm here for, as your intimacy guru.